Five, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Alright, hello, willkommen, bienvenue, konnichiwa, ni hao, jambo, marhaba. It's time for the Armist Inquisition yet again, coming in your ears at 96 kilobytes per second. Sunday the 19th of December 2021, episode 212. I'm Amish Phil.
I'm Amish Ben.
And I'm Amish Matt.
The dwarf, the cripple, and the mother of madness.
And I've got to say, I got mixed emotions about this one. Because we've got Midnight Mike here from OBDM. How we doing, Mike?
I'm doing well.
Man, I got mixed emotions about this one.
I do. No, is it a soundboard off tonight?
No, Mike's fighting.
I'm gonna play it chill. Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Good to have you. Yeah, we've met a couple of times, I think, on the Union of the Unwanted, and I'm sure many people listening on our side are more than familiar with you too, with OBDM. I think there's a lot of cross-contamination.
Seems to be, doesn't there, in the Discord? A lot of our listeners seem to know OBDM.
Absolutely,
yeah. Mike, yeah.
I mean, for those who aren't familiar, why don't you just fill us in, lay it out for people who maybe aren't familiar with the Union and OBDM, what it's all about?
I'll do my best. I'll do my best. So the Union of the Unwanted was a podcast that we started about a year and a half ago during the beginning of this COVID kind of stuff. And it was myself, Sam Tripoli, Ricky from the Ripple Effect podcast, and Charlie Robinson from Macroaggressions. And we got together one day and we just started inviting on more and more people. And now we do that podcast every 2 weeks. And Phil, that's where I met you, over there. And it just keeps growing, and somehow we still keep doing the show, and the shows keep getting good guests, so I guess we'll keep doing them. As for my other primary podcast, that's Our Big Dumb Mouth. I started that in 2006, just goofing around because I had a bunch of recording equipment at my house, and kept at it pretty much every week. Since then, the show has evolved over time, different hosts. I've been the only constant on that show. That and the wacky news stories that we cover, conspiracies, paranormal stuff, and just a whole host of stuff. We try not to take anything too serious, but with the current climate of everything that's going on, you can't help but to take certain things serious, but we try to goof around as much as possible and have fun, and that's about it.
It's a hard line to sort of, it's a bit of a tightrope. The thing is, the way I look at it, there are far more people out there who are more capable than me of taking these things seriously and analysing them, such as Charlie. And so that sort of pushes me in the direction that you've got to just have a laugh with it where you can and pull out the weirdness and the... what do you call it when something's not obscure?
Obtuse?
Yeah, something like that. Pull obtuseness out your bum hole and try and have a laugh.
I think obtuse is being difficult, but so that's the wrong word, I guess.
Yeah.
But with any of this kind of stuff, like regardless, like we try to goof around with everything. But I got a lot of backlash when we goof around with topics like Missing 411. And for anybody who doesn't know, Missing 411 is a phenomenon that was and is documented by an author named David Paulides. And he documents people who go missing in primarily, not all the time, primarily he documents people who go missing in the national parks or in wilderness areas. And there's various criteria that he uses to create the Missing 411 profile. And we goof around, not at people meeting their demise or disappearing, but how ridiculous the scenario is that when you have a person that is 10 feet away from you, you turn your eyes, and next thing you do, you turn back, and they're gone 5 seconds later. That's a completely insane scenario. So you gotta think about all the goofiness that's around that. And when you upload clips like that to YouTube, they think that you're mocking the victims, and we're not. We're mocking the situation and the people in charge, the forest rangers and the park services that are tight-lipped about these kinds of events happening. And so it's kind of like a George Carlin approach to kind of like darker sense of humor when it comes to this kind of stuff. But out there in internet land, people aren't that forgiving when you take topics that they really care about and you kind of goof on them a little bit. So,
what's the current thinking on what happened to them then, Mike? Is it sort of animal based, or I mean, there's a lot of mad animals in national parks in America that we don't have over here. I mean, you might get pested by a pigeon in our parks or something, but you've got mountain lions, all kinds of shit over there.
Oh yeah, there's multiple different theories. Obviously, you have one camp where it is something that is malicious and intentional. Then the other camp is suggesting coyote, whatever. But for me, and depending on the story, because there's some pretty incredible tales. Like there's a toddler that went missing, and next thing you know, this toddler was seen up on top of this mountainous ridge, probably a couple 100 feet up, and it was seen by a couple of hikers that had no association with the family, and this was a few miles away from when the toddler was last seen. Now, you could say, well, the toddler is just very robust and is a great mountain climber and obviously could traverse this terrain on its own. But other people are like, no, it's probably not likely that these kids, specifically kids that are below the age of 5, are able to travel tens of miles within a span of a few hours on their own, barefoot, in extreme weather conditions. So some people speculate, oh, it's Sasquatch, or some people will speculate it's a UFO. These are some sort of abduction scenario, and other people lean towards like portals. And so there's really no real consensus. David Paulides does, at the end of his talks, if you listen, he drops some hints about paranormal activity that have occurred in regions where people do go missing that fit the missing 411 profile. He often brings up UFO sightings that happen in that area. Then he will at times say that there are Sasquatch sightings in these areas as well. The time I saw David Paulides talk, it was in January of 2020, right before all this shit hit the fan. And he spent the first half of his 3-hour talk dissecting Bigfoot, the information on Bigfoot, all the data he has collected over the years. And he's done a pretty thorough job of collecting data and what he believes Bigfoot to be. And the second part of the talk was missing 411. Now, he stated that these are two separate talks. Do not jump to any sort of logical conclusion. Just because I'm talking about one, you shouldn't infer that I am saying Bigfoot is responsible for these people going missing. And a lot of people did that. I chose not to. I think he's leaning in a bit of a different direction. And I think the missing 411 phenomenon is super complex and involves not one entity or another. I think it's something a little bit more bizarre, something that I would fit into the category of like you accidentally walked into a dimensional slip or a portal for a time being. And so you're just outside of this visible reality, but to you, everything seems kind of normal. There was a case, I think in the 1920s, out west in the United States, where there were 3 young people that went out hiking and hunting and just camping for a little while. Well, they got separated from each other. One of the guys started to panic, and he cracked off a few shots. His other 2 friends never heard those shots get cracked off. Now, after their friend did not come home, they went to the authorities. They got a bunch of search and rescue up there. They found nothing. I think his body was eventually found a year later, not that far from the original campsite. And next to them, they found his revolver. They found a knife. But they claimed, the two people up there said they heard no warning shots. They heard no distress fire or anything like that. So to me, like, if you're 500 feet away, you're going to hear that shot. You're going to hear your friend cry out for help. But for whatever reason, there was some sort of barrier there that prevented that from happening.
Jeez, is it still going on? Like, are there some recent modern disappearances?
Yeah, there are things that happen that are kind of messed up. In, I believe, 2018, 2019, there was a toddler in Kentucky that went missing for about 72 hours. And this made all the national headlines, because when a kid goes missing, it's full force. Everyone's got to get out there. Everyone's got to be aware. And you got to get his picture in front of as many people as possible in case they find him. Well, this kid was eventually found about 50 hours later, about 1,500 feet from his house, which you'd imagine they would have searched by then. Well, for whatever reason, he wasn't found during that initial search. It was only on a follow-up search did the search and rescue team find him. They found him in a thicket. He was relatively wet, although during that time of year in March in Kentucky, it gets very cold. It can get down to hypothermic temperatures. And this toddler had no jacket, no winter weather clothing on at all, and somehow managed to survive out there by himself with seemingly no help from anybody else. Now, when he made it to his home and made it to his family, he said that he hung out with a bear the entire time, and that the bear took care of him. This is a 3-year-old kid saying that.
Yeah.
And so maybe it was an active, wild imagination, but how did a kid survive temperatures that would cause hypothermia? No clothing, not that far away from his house, by the way, managed to survive and not be found within that time span. So there's weird things like that. That do crop up.
Maybe she found a bear's carcass and she slit open its belly and pulled the entrails out and just slipped in there, you know.
Like the
classic Star Wars maneuver.
And said, well, I thought they smelled bad on the outside. Maybe that's what's going on.
You have to get that in every podcast, Phil, don't you?
No, well, it's an opportune moment.
Well,
it's a perfect example of that. I don't think the kid smelled like rotted bear carcass or anything like that. It's possible.
It was slightly wet, though.
Yeah, he said it was wet.
It wasn't in the initial report. So there are constant cases that are new cases that are being generated in the missing 411 kind of profile. But David Politis is going back and digging through the archives and finding things that basically cold cases. He's looking at cold cases where the Park Service has chosen not to do any sort of like follow-up investigation, doesn't have any clear answers for the families or friends involved, and it's kind of been forgotten. And so I think a lot of families find some sort of closure in the fact, or maybe are this thankful that there's a whole community out there very interested in their loved one's life who's no longer around, and they're actively looking for answers. Now, I don't know if the families are on board with like a Bigfoot theory or UFO abduction, but some of these people are never found again. Some of these bodies are never recovered. There are other times where someone goes missing, and then very soon after, probably within 24 to 48 hours, the body is discovered in an area that was previously searched by many qualified search and rescue experts, which is even more puzzling. They don't know what to make of it, but it doesn't look good.
It kind of reminds me a bit of, remember when we had Tony Walker on? He was talking about time slips.
Yeah, I was just going to say time slips. And do you remember that Special Forces podcast you sent me a link to about the guys who went off to, they'd just been told.
Oh, no, that was, it was Merkel, Tony Merkel. What's it called?
I don't know.
Merkel's podcast.
I can't remember what it's called.
Oh, my God.
Right.
Oh, my God.
Tony Merkel.
Confessional.
Yeah.
It was an episode of The Confessional I sent you, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Reminded me of that.
they were going out somewhere above. Was that above the Arctic Circle or something like that? I can't remember. It's ages ago now.
Yeah, a long time. And
It's an old episode.
They were going to recover something.
That's right. Yeah.
And basically, they kind of experienced a time slip, didn't they? Essentially, you could tell. He sort of went through loads of different things, like this weird, ship or whatever, and they recovered some data from it or something. And then they get back to I think it's a ship, is it? Are they going back to like a ship off the coast or something? And then he goes to bed, and then he wakes up again, and he's like, Sergeant comes in and says, "Right, are you ready for the mission?" And basically, it all starts again, doesn't it? Basically, it's so weird, that story.
It was bizarre, and they were all very well. The ones that they were like affected for the rest of their lives as well.
Yeah.
It's very. Have you had David on the show, or am I misremembering that?
No, I've never had David play us on the show. I've met him. He probably knows of OBDM, but he probably doesn't want to be associated with us because we goof around and we come up with pretty outlandish theories about this kind of stuff. Like I have my own theory about missing 411, and it's kind of hard to wrap your head around, but I have a clip here from one of this is from David's newest movie, I believe, called Missing 411 Hunters. And this is concerning an older hunter who was out in the woods with his entire family, like his entire extended family. So he's got a son with him, he's got some neighbors and just some good friends, and they're all out hunting. And they're kind of set up in a line at the bottom of a hill. One of the other hunters was supposed to kind of chase the deer up over the hill, and so they would get a shot at a few of these deer coming up over the hill. Well, this old guy his job was basically to sit on this tree stump. Excuse me. He's supposed to sit on this tree stump and just look at this area. And if you happen to see a deer, you crack off a shot, or you notify someone down the line that they might be coming down that way. So they're probably separated by maybe 50 yards to maybe 75 yards. And his fellow hunter out there said this and he disappeared. That older hunter, he disappeared while sitting on that tree stump. Now, they don't know what happened to him, but this is what was heard by his comrades out there.
Did your dad tell you about a sound he heard in the woods that day?
He said he heard some kind of, it was snapping or crack sound that was strange. It wasn't something he normally hears in the woods. He still talks to me about it. I don't know. He almost said it sounded like a big trap closing or something. I don't know,
A big trap closing.
Yeah.
I think that one of my theories for missing 411 is that I think sometimes people fall into like some sort of dimensional trap, and they're held there, and they can't get out, and they're held there, and then depending on who's looking at that trap, they're either processed and they're taken away for whatever needs to be done to them, maybe experiments or whatever else. They're processed and then they're of no use, so they're killed and they're kind of flung out in the kind of same area where they're at, or they're processed and they're not going to be killed and they're let go.
I feel like I've been in a dimensional trap for about the last 20 months, actually.
Feels like, yeah.
That's an interesting theory. But who's the trapper then, Mike?
That's the thing. I think a lot of this, so with anything, like if you set up a mouse trap, it can catch a lot of things, not only mice. So anything that can wander its way in there and get trapped by it. I would say there are areas of this country, in this world, that are more conducive to the membrane of this reality being a little thinner. And sometimes you wander in there, and when you wander into a place where you're not supposed to be, a notification goes off to the entities in that dimension. And depending on who receives that notification or who answers that notification, that's how you're processed at that time. And it's kind of like if a server goes down on a system, people get notification. Depending who's on call, you got to go repair that server and either reboot it, you kill it, or you say, no, it's all good. And you can go back to what you're doing.
Well,
so there's a notification system once that's triggered.
Now, this makes sense to me in this way. If you take the dimensional aspect and replace that with a sort of matrix simulation theory aspect, that you wander into a space where there's a glitch, if you like, in the code, and then there's a snap, and Mr. Smith comes and sorts you out and pulls you out, pulls you out in the other, in the real world.
Oh yeah,
and that's why you disappear in our reality. Holy shitballs!
I'm open to that too. I'm a big kind of I indulge in a lot in the matrix reality. This is kind of simulated, but I think when you use the term simulated reality, a lot of people get turned off because they feel as though like this reality is no longer real to them. Like when you say simulated, they think it's like it's generated and it's all fake, and they think it's like a very nihilistic approach to reality. But to me,
Truman shows.
Yeah,
like it's all for you.
Yeah, and it might be, but it feels real to me. My emotions are real. My observations I feel are real. My consciousness is real. My thoughts are real. So it's real to me. It doesn't mean that it's not generated in some constructed way. And I believe that if there is some sort of generated code behind us all, there is a way to interact with the code base using an API, an application program interface. We use it all the time with the internet. Sometimes if you press enough buttons, you can do weird things on your computer. If you really know your programming languages, you can make your computer do incredibly handy things. And I think the reality is the same way. I think if you use prayer, you can do certain things. If you use meditation, you have a different awareness of this reality. There's other people that have a different programming language. Maybe they use satanic rituals to interface with this matrix. Maybe that's a quick and dirty way to do it. And I've always said, if I ever go missing in a missing 411 kind of way, I want people who are extremely skilled at meditation to be out there and focus on me. And I think that will go a long ways into finding people. I want people that are into transcendental meditation, who are the oneness, people who are really into that kind of thing, because I think there's some sort of dimensional interaction there. And I think with the human consciousness, you can kind of not necessarily bend the reality, but you can interact with it in ways that other people who are just living their life can't do.
Yeah, if you ever go missing, Mike, we'll focus our chi.
Yeah,
focus our chi in your direction.
That.
Yeah.
I've told my wife that. And it's like, if because my wife's big into meditation. It's like, if I go missing, I need you to come out and meditate for me in that area, and we'll see what we can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's tempting, the sort of nihilistic option when you look at simulation theory, but the way I look at it is that this is the only reality we have. So it's like Pascal's wager. You can't just, be nihilistic in that sense. You've got to make the most of the reality that you have, wherever it's generating from.
Exactly, yeah.
But it definitely makes sense. Like when you think about different people we've talked to, like occult practitioners and meditators and stuff, and Ryan, with his this deep symbolism stuff, that seems to be sacred geometry and all these weird subjects that seem to be pointing at something bigger than on prosaic reductionist worldview that's dominated since the Enlightenment. I think there's definitely some truth in that.
Yeah.
It's just I'm shit at meditating, man. I can't do it.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's something that if I do it, it has to be at the end of the night, and I listen to some guided meditation from YouTube. But when that playlist is done, then Dr. Disrespect comes on, and I'm being yelled at, and it kind of ruins my my meditation. So it's just I hear a bunch of that stuff, and
holy shit, grow some balls,
and that kind of ruins the meditation experience. So I need a better way of doing that.
Oh, beautiful. Well, shall we move on and do some news?
Yeah, I was going to say as well, have we got a question?
Oh, gosh, yeah, I should have...
Do you want me to get it up, or...
Oh, sorry, excuse me.
The question.
If you want to get it up. I'm getting it up now.
All right, okay.
It from... it was from Lee, I think, wasn't it?
I think, yeah.
Lee, who is a fellow podcaster, host of the Big Conspire. Big Conspire guest questions. I hope he put it in here. Oh, here we are. Lee from Big Conspire on the Discord. Can you ask Mike if he thinks Bigfoot or cryptids in general are just undiscovered native Earth species or creatures that are multidimensional and just visit our plane of existence?
That's a good question. And I haven't come to a conclusion either way. So, like, specifically when it comes to Bigfoot, there's like 3 camps. 1, it doesn't exist and you're making it all up in your head. 2, Bigfoot exists, but it is some sort of primate that is just on the evolutionary scale and it just went its own direction, but it's pretty much like an advanced gorilla or something like that. And then there is the 3rd camp where Bigfoot is paranormal to a certain degree and pretty much is the foot soldier of ETs. And they can slip in and out of this dimension. They're telepathic and they have special unique abilities. And I've read a lot about both of the later 2. Now, the last one is much more interesting and salacious to think that Bigfoot has telepathic powers. It can cloak itself, and it is used as a foot soldier and a lookout for extraterrestrials who are doing experiments, whether it's genetic or geological, here on Earth. Those are interesting stories, harder to kind of nail down. But I entertain both, but I realize the 2 camps, they're at odds with each other. And this is what David Paulides runs up against. So David Paulides believes that Bigfoot is man. It is a form of human, and that the DNA that has been recovered from Bigfoot expeditions, the reason why it comes back as human is because it's mostly human. It's that I believe that the mother is human and the father side of the Bigfoot tree, genetic tree, is actually from like the Nephilim, the ancient race. And so that's what he believes Bigfoot to be, is a hybrid of human and Nephilim. Whereas then there's like the other camp, like that's David Paulides'. He doesn't get into the paranormal aspect really, although he does state that in certain missing 411 cases, if people are traveling in a long line, they're hiking, there's like 10 people in a line hiking, sometimes the last person in line will start to get a headache, start to get dizzy, not feel well, and then they'll turn back and they'll go back to camp to kind of rest up. That person's never seen from again. And there are other instances where people will feel something strange when in the presence of Bigfoot, which may lead to the conclusion that they do maybe have some sort of psychic or natural abilities that other animals don't. As for whether or not they're ET, I have tons of stories where there are Bigfoot seen in the presence of aliens and or seen right after a giant UFO flap. So I lean in the direction that there is, when you have one paranormal kind of event, you're going to find others. And it's like if you think of a portal, like a concentration of like paranormal energy, it's like Walmart. You walk into Walmart. I don't know if you guys got that in UK, but there's a whole host of things you can find in there. People on crack. You can find people out late just trying to get milk. A whole range of things can go on there. And so I think Bigfoot is paranormal in that aspect, that because they are seen in the presence of UFOs, that I would throw them in that category.
Great answer. There you go, Lee.
I definitely want them to be the foot soldiers of extraterrestrials, though. Yeah, that's the camp I'm in from that.
It's a fun one.
Yeah, I'm having it.
Yeah, I'd have that as well.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, let's move on. Let's do some news then.
Okay.
We'll start off with the Rona. Do some COVID news.
Okay.
Not much, because, you know.
Keeping it light.
Yeah.
COVID-19 news.
People have got to understand vaccination is going to be, in the end, your route to liberty.
The magic vaccine.
A big fat shot in the ass.
From hell.
Oh! You know, it's just, super painful.
Like a judgment day and terminating mode, like.
It's not going to allow us to go completely back to normal.
Anal swab tests.
In the same ballpark as seasonal influenza.
Because we're being bored, we want to have fun.
I can't save you if you're not wearing a face mask.
Read the standing orders. Read them and understand them.
Things are building up here, Mike. We feel...
That's a great clip, by the way. That clip says it all, doesn't it?
That's the short version. I've got a mix that's about a supercut that's about 3-4 minutes long, because I started collecting this stuff. 18 months ago, and there's every week there's some wacky clip from some communist or world or someone saying something stupid about this fucking virus.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was the medium length one, I think. The medium length COVID jingle. But yeah, things are heating up. We're sort of bracing ourselves here for a snap lockdown.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen.
Oh, don't say that.
I do.
Yeah.
Maybe in the new year.
Before Christmas, he reckons.
Oh,
well,
no.
Savage Javage this morning was saying it could happen before Christmas.
Well, speaking of the Health Secretary, Savage Javid, I have a clip from him speaking on Sky News this morning, and he's got his knives out for the unvaccinated. Check this out.
People have had over a year, almost a year now, to get vaccinated. There's still 10% of our population that have chosen, for whatever reason, not to get vaccinated.
We're talking about 5 million adults plus.
Yeah, 5 million plus. And I just cannot emphasize enough the impact that they are having on the rest of society. They must really think about the damage they are doing to society by they take up hospital beds that could have been...
I've not taken up any hospital beds.
No.
Used for someone with maybe a heart problem or maybe someone who's waiting for their elective surgery. But instead of protecting themselves and protecting their community, they choose not to get vaccinated. They are really having a damaging impact. And I just can't stress enough, please do come forward and get vaccinated. It's a really positive thing to do, not just for yourself, for your loved ones, but for your community too.
This is about as strong as the language has been in the UK as far as politicians pointing the finger at the unvaccinated. I mean, it's really been crazy because it's over on your side of the pond, Mike, because it seems to be so much more politically polarised.
Yeah, over here, it's very polarised. I have friends and family, obviously, who are vaccinated. I don't get it pushed on me by them. But there is this overall mood, especially when you go on social media and you see what your friends are posting, that there's a lot of guilt out there. They're trying to shame you into getting it still after all this time. And I don't think at this point, I think everyone who would have gotten the vaccine pretty much has already gotten it at this point. And beyond some sort of legal mandate or being forced to get it at gunpoint, I don't think it's going to happen. And I said this to my parents the other day, who are both vaccinated, and I love them both. But I mean, they're older, and they kind of fell into, well, we're older, we should get the vaccine. They asked me if I was vaccinated. I said no, and I said at this point, considering everyone who's had COVID and recovered, and these new variants, Delta and what's the name of this one? I think it's called Omicron. It's called Omicron. And vaccines, we should be at herd immunity at this point. And they agreed. My parents agreed. Why aren't we? And why isn't anybody talking about herd immunity anymore? It's not even being discussed. So something goofy is going on, regardless of where you think. And I just approach it like that with people who are vaccinated. It's like, you got to see something goofy is going on now. We should be at herd immunity. Why aren't we?
Yeah, I think we've started a sort of arms race with Mother Nature that we can't possibly win. And the other thing I'm thinking is, it's like, if you've got to get, a jab every 3 months, and you've got to wait 3 months before, between jabs, I'm never going to be fully vaccinated because it's like, it's mathematically impossible.
Can't catch up.
Can't catch up, no.
No. So we're all going to be left behind. Like, how are you guys dealing with it over there? Because there's a lot. It seems like you guys are under a lot more pressure as a country. Like here, we have the ability to move from different states. Some states like Florida are a lot less restrictive. Ohio, where I'm at, not too bad. I'm out in the country, so I don't go into the cities too much. So how are you guys dealing with it?
Well, we probably live in the most... I suppose the most liberal in terms of like the COVID rules of the nations in the UK, don't we? Would you say?
Yeah, England, yeah.
So like in basically in Scotland and Wales and Northern Ireland, it's even worse. Like, so they've got like, COVID passports, kind of just started this week, is it? They've started here. So I think it's events over 10,000. And then enclosed events over 500, you've got to have a COVID passport, so show that you've been vaccinated. And then they're going to say now that when the health secretary who just spoke then essentially said that when he feels people have had enough time to get boosted, then that's what will be classed as fully vaccinated, no longer the two shots.
The three vaccines.
Yeah.
Yes. He also slipped in an announcement this week. He was speaking to the House about kiddies, about 12-year-olds and vaccine passports. Got a clip?
And from today, I can confirm that the NHS COVID pass is being rolled out to 12 and 15-year-olds for international travel, allowing even more people to be able to prove their vaccine status for travel where it is needed. From today.
Yeah, just drop that in the middle of the debate about COVID passports. But that's it. Yeah, it's only for international travel.
Yeah, no, it's going to happen though, isn't it?
You know, this is how these things get rolled out. We get drip fed, don't we? Mm-hmm. And then they stop, and then they wait, and then they drip feed a bit more. And
it'd be interesting. I suppose, I don't know what the uptake has been for sort of like 12 to 15-year-olds, but if he goes for sort of like
40%.
Is it? Right. So if he goes down to sort of 5 to 12, that's the next one, isn't it? I suppose. I wonder what the uptake would be within that. I'm pretty sure that I wouldn't get my sons vaccinated as it stands, and listening to sort of like the risk. There's just like, there's basically no risk for COVID against them. But then, you know, the side effects from the vaccine, obviously, more severe for boys. So it's just like a no-go for me, essentially.
Yeah, the ones we know about.
Mm. That's why I'm incredibly just like here in the United States, we used to have our dear Dr. Fauci up on Capitol Hill answering questions every other week from a whole range of congressmen and senators, and he would ask some hard questions. I haven't seen that since pretty much Biden has been in office, and so these questions that we have about herd immunity, or the threat of COVID to kids and versus the boosters or the vaccines, these questions are not being asked anymore. Everything is just as a given.
Yeah.
Like there is no challenge to any of this anymore, and it's just people are just going along with it, and it's incredibly disappointing. We have a few good politicians here, but they're not doing enough to stand up.
Yeah, Bojo the clown.
The reasoning, Mike, behind your in America, the pushing for vaccinations and boosters? What's the reasoning behind that? Because over here, they pin it to quite a reasonable explanation that our health service isn't good enough to stand up to 4,000 people coming into the hospital with COVID a day. I mean, obviously in the States, everything's privatized, and it's more a case of whether you can afford the healthcare or not. So they can't be using that line.
So over here, we're being told, so for people who are already vaccinated, they're urging the booster because the vaccine efficiency or its ability to ward off the virus, or I guess ward off the symptoms, is lower over time. So right about the 6-month mark, they say you need a booster because these vaccines aren't doing what they should. You know, those are my words, that not theirs. They're saying you got to get boosted in order to protect yourself. Now, what the CDC director did say, and this is she said that the boosters and the vaccines can no longer prevent the spread of COVID. And so there is conflicting information going on and being said over here. Now, when it comes to kids, what is even more concerning is that since the threat of COVID to a kid is very minimal, so why would you give them a vaccine that lessens their symptoms and could potentially make them an asymptomatic carrier, which is possible according to our CDC director? And so we have people that probably have COVID, don't know it because they gotten the vaccine, and they're asymptomatic spreaders. That's not being brought up at all. And like all the talking points, that's not being brought up. And so the reasons, I think, for over here in America, if the hospital doesn't run at a certain capacity, it's losing money. Yeah, I think they want to run at like 90% capacity, since it is a business. And so for them to complain about, oh, we're almost at capacity, we're not at, like, we're over capacity, that means they're making money. They want to be near capacity. And I don't know.
Mate, wasn't there stories earlier on in the pandemic of hospitals in the States laying nurses and doctors off because there was no work for them?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things like these questions when it comes to hospital administration and capacity rates and all that kind of stuff. This is never brought up on TV or in front of Congress. Not that I've seen. Everyone thinks that the hospital shouldn't have anybody in there until, there's an emergency. But there's tons of elective surgeries. There are tons of people that go in there for non-emergency needs. And they tend to, because it's a business. Now that the pandemic is here, well, we don't need those elective surgeries. We have the vaccine to deal with, the virus to deal with, and they get paid. They get paid a certain amount of money per COVID diagnosis. I'm going to say a number. I don't know if that's correct. I think they get paid
$20,000,
$14,000 per COVID diagnosis. I don't know for sure.
Oh, yeah,
but it's a business, and they got a business model. So if they're not doing elective surgeries, they got to find another business to get in.
Oh, it's disturbing.
Yeah.
Let's move on from the UK. Let's go to our friends in the Netherlands, in the Lowlands.
Okay.
Spare a thought for our Dutch friends, because they're having a bit of a shit time over there. Imagine waking up to this.
To your accent.
I like it.
From tomorrow in Holland, none of this will be allowed. All non-essential shops will shut, along with bars and restaurants, as the country goes back into lockdown. Schools and universities will also close until mid-January, a move the Dutch Prime Minister called unavoidable.
Nederland gaat nog een keer.
The Netherlands is again shutting down. That is unavoidable because of the fifth wave that is coming at us with the Omicron variant. Omicron is spreading even faster than we feared, and so we must act now to prevent as much of the worst as possible.
The country recorded nearly 15,000 new COVID infections in the last 24 hours, and many here had already feared the worst, hitting the shops ahead of the announcement to make the most of their freedom whilst they still could.
Yeah, bad news in the Netherlands. They're having a crisis.
Crisis in Plotland.
Yeah. And we're wondering if it's going to be like March 2020, because this is how it started. It started with Italy, and then there was this sort of domino effect across Europe.
Oh, shit, we better do something.
Well, politician, you've got to do something. Yeah. The one thing that you can't do is nothing.
Yeah.
You have to be seen to doing something, even if it's totally useless and counterproductive.
Yeah. So, and they'll never admit mistakes either.
No.
What?
Never.
A mistake?
Yeah. That's the thing. So they're locking down over there. Like, I'm out here in kind of somewhat farmland, Ohio. When I go to my local grocery store, no one's wearing masks. When I go to businesses around here, pretty much no one's wearing masks. And, we just visited with our neighbors today, and it seems somewhat normal. The only time I get really inundated with what's going on in the world is when we try to go into the city or you pay attention to the news. The only people that I personally have known to get COVID are people severely get COVID, like where it's kind of debilitating and they might go to the hospital, are people that have already been vaccinated. And I'm sure there are, and I've heard stories out there like, oh, my friend got it pretty bad, but I'm just talking about me personally. And thankfully, I don't know anybody that's died from it. And, it's a real thing. But I think with everything, every crisis tends to be exploited for someone's gain.
Yeah, I think we've had sort of a perfect storm of circumstances, I think. You've got big tech playing their part with the censorship, like you mentioned, Mike, about certain questions not being asked or not being allowed to be asked or being shadow banned, censored. You've got the pharmaceutical industry making out like bandits. Lack of regulatory oversight, I would suggest.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Like, there's literally no comeback for the vaccines, is there now?
Yeah, as far as liability.
Yeah.
No, they were funded for the research, and the orders were put in before they'd even finished the trials.
Yeah,
it's very disturbing.
Yeah, it's worrying.
And you can't bring this up to people who are on the other side of this, because I think it just makes them like go off course, and they'll just go right back on. Like, you can't bring this stuff up. You got to do it in a very gradual way, because that kind of information we you're talking about right there, that the vaccine is being developed before the pandemic, This throws them for a loop. They don't know what to do with that kind of information. That's like level 10 information. They're like level 2. They can't get there yet. You're fighting monsters at a rank you're not at yet.
Yeah, the AstraZeneca one was made over a weekend in, I'm pretty sure, February 2020.
Right.
Yeah.
It's for some kid's class project, probably. Get it over the weekend.
Yeah.
My mom helped me.
Weird science.
Yeah.
Anyway, should we move off?
So when it comes to COVID, like we talk about it on OBDM, but like there are other podcasts that do a great job at dissecting this stuff, catching news clips like No Agenda. You guys obviously pay attention to it, but to me, and this is maybe right or wrong, to me, like COVID at this point in the pandemic, it's like the weather. And it feels like it's just, we got a COVID front blowing in today. It's going to be pretty strong. Make sure you wear a coat out there. And I don't want to say it's boring because I know it's important to talk about this stuff because of what's going on in Australia and the draconian laws that we will all be under probably sometime within the next 5 years with passports. But to me, it is very depressing to talk about because there are so many people that are just willingly saying, yeah, I need a booster. I was like, why do you need a booster? You seem like you don't need a booster to me. I don't know, but...
And there's so many other things that they could have been telling us for the last 2 years, like taking vitamin D, getting out and getting some exercise, looking after your diet,
losing weight. Yeah,
can you imagine? £400 billion we've spent in the UK on COVID mitigation.
Yeah,
you know, if they'd have spent 10% of that on actual public health over 2 years.
Well, health security now it's called, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, you'll love this, mate. So we used to have a body called Public Health England. Makes sense. That's a nice title, isn't it, for a government institution? Public Health England. Bob on. It's now called the UK Health Security Agency.
Oh, that sounds nice.
Yes.
It's just crazy, isn't it? At every single sort of level, it's just crazy what's happening. And like people just got like, it just doesn't even make the news, that kind of change, does it? It changed its name, but nobody like comments, well, why is it called that now?
No one cares. It's like if you go to a normie and say, you show them the EU document from 2017 where it shows them planning vaccine passports. But, you know, it's meant to be 2025. They're 3 years ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
But it just blows people away. Anyway.
I know a lot of people, like a lot of my friends and family have been vaccinated, and I wish them nothing but the best. Like I want them to be happy and healthy, and I hope that it provides the protection that they claim it provides. It's only a problem when they start, not my friends and family don't do this to me, but when the people on the pro-vaccine start shaming and creating these regulations and laws where you're demanded to do this against your own will because they feel they know what's best for you. And it seems like taking the vaccine, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. They really don't know because there's not a lot of data. There's a lot of breakthrough cases as has been documented all over the news. So it seems like it's a gamble. It seems like a coin toss at this point. So
it's almost like zealotism. It's very sort of similar to religion and people forcing that down other people's throats. You know, that's how religion spreads, I guess, on a fundamental basis. But you're right. It's very divisive and turning into an us versus them sort of scenario, which is never going to end well.
No. Well, luckily, you guys over there in the UK, it seems as though your hospital system puts out data that is at least honest. So I think that I've seen some data from over there where maybe half the people in the hospital are vaccinated and half aren't vaccinated, or maybe it's like 60-40, something like that. So at least they admit that, hey, there are breakthrough cases and you got to be careful.
Yeah, in America, they don't count breakthrough cases in people who are vaccinated, I don't think, do they?
Well, they have very specific criteria of how they count those numbers. So if you get the vaccine and then within 2 weeks you get sick, you're counted as unvaccinated. And so they have very interesting ways of collecting data.
This is my favorite part of the whole scam. It's when the vaccine companies said it takes 14 days
Oh, right. Yeah.
Right. So I've got a new drug.
Yeah.
Right. Amish Filavir. Let's call it. It's depression drug.
Oh, good.
SSRI.
Yeah.
That's what they are, isn't it? Depression.
Yeah, one of them. Yeah.
Right. I've got this drug. I made it. I'm going to do. I've done a clinical trial. I funded it and run it, obviously, because I'm the inventor. And I got 40,000 people. 20,000 in the treatment group who got Amish Filavir. 20,000 people in the other group, they got placebo. Well, no, they got meningitis vaccine. Because I just happened, I had 20,000 of them in the shed. So I gave them meningitis vaccine, right? Now then, in the first 14 days after treatment, out of the 20,000 in the treatment group, 1,000 committed suicide. But don't worry about that. It wasn't working then. It wasn't working. After the 14 days, only one person committed suicide in the treatment group, and 2 people committed suicide in the placebo group. So you know, throw money at me.
Yeah.
It works.
I want some Amish Filavir.
It's just
if you tried that way of data collection, like in software engineering or deploying software, you'd be laughed out of the business. You want to measure what happened when the change in the system occurred.
Yep.
It makes sense. And to not track that information, I think is criminal at that point. And I'm surprised that has not been raised on Capitol Hill here in the United States. But if people have raised that concern, it's certainly not loud enough, and it's not being promoted on social media. And it's absolute lunacy.
Yeah. Obviously, my example is an exaggeration, but there is evidence there is evidence of negative efficacy in the first 14 days.
Yeah,
but you're more likely to get it. But you know, we'll overlook
sometimes
that.
People have bad reactions to just drugs in general. I've had bad reactions to drugs, and it usually happens within the first 48 hours of taking something new into your body.
K-hole? Was it a K-hole?
No. I was diagnosed with Lyme disease, and they put me on this regimen of like hardcore antibiotics. My body completely freaked out.
Oh,
wow, that's gnarly. Who was it we heard about?
I was just going to ask you the same question. Who was the woman who wrote the book about Lyme disease?
The Ticks woman with the
we're rubbish at this.
That was fun.
Well, to be fair, it was about a year ago.
Yeah,
but we had an author on who's big into Lyme disease. She wrote a book about it, and
sort of said about how
the Lone Star ticks and
potentially made in a lab and
all sorts of weird stuff.
Yeah. It's interesting. I tested positive for Lyme disease, went through a round of drugs, and they say I don't have it anymore. But I'm in Ohio. There's ticks everywhere. My dog has been tested for Lyme disease and came back positive twice. I have been bitten by ticks like almost every other week out here. So I might have Lyme disease right now and not even really know it because sometimes the symptoms are delayed. But the symptoms I was experiencing were pretty horrific, like just all my limbs swelling up. Like I couldn't walk because there's like so much swelling going on my knees, or I couldn't hold a pencil because my entire hand was swollen. That's some pretty messed up stuff.
It is messed up. It was Chris Newby we had on episode 177, but she was talking about the potential for it to be a bioweapon.
Yeah.
Which again would be insane, but nothing surprises me at this point.
No, to me, it's like, okay, it probably came over from Plum Island on some deer, and it just spread across the U.S.
Well,
and I found out my dog had it when we moved to Arizona, which is like out in the desert of the Southwest United States. Took him to a vet, and your vet is like, by the way, your dog has Lyme disease. I was like, what? And it's like, we don't got ticks out here in the desert. Where'd you guys come from? It's like, Ohio. He's like, there you go. I was like,
you bet didn't get $14,000 for diagnosing that, did he?
No, I don't think so. I don't think they don't have those kind of numbers over there at the vets, but
there's not a lot of grassland or deer in the desert, from what I remember.
No, they got rattlesnakes and hawks out there and bobcats.
Proper animals.
Yeah.
Speaking of the desert, shall we move to a story that's been breaking from Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. This is it's my favourite anchor. This is Weon. It's from World in One News, and my favourite anchor. Palki Shama Upadeh.
Okay.
Next story is from West Asia, and I promise you, this is not fake news. In Saudi Arabia, 40 contestants have been disqualified from a beauty contest.
Disqualified!
Because they got Botox. These are not human contestants, these are camels. A crackdown on Botoxed camels is underway in Saudi Arabia. And this is no laughing matter. A whopping $66 million is on the line. Here's a report.
$66 million?
Well, it sounds like they run a tight ship over there. I kind of like that. Okay. We want real camels over here.
Yeah, they've actually properly aged,
Yeah.
Show their experience.
It's one of the biggest crackdowns that Saudi Arabia has witnessed. The target wasn't a prince or a high-profile dissenter. This time, the Saudis are cracking down on Botox camels. The kingdom is hosting a beauty pageant for camels. It's happening at the King Abdulaziz Camel Festival. This is a highly competitive event. A cash prize of $66 million is on the line. So a few breeders decided to play dirty. They gave their camels Botox injections. And they didn't stop there. Dozens of breeders stretched out the lips and noses of the camels. They used hormones to boost their muscles, inflate body parts with rubber bands.
What body parts? Okay. What body parts are they inflating?
With a rubber band.
Probably the humps.
Yes. Lovely lady humps.
Yeah.
And fillers to relax their faces. The organizers have caught 40 breeders so far. They have been disqualified for enhancing their camels. They'll now face strict penalties for their manipulation. Crackdowns like this one are a regular affair at this carnival. The Camel Beauty Contest is an attempt to preserve the place of the animal in Saudi traditions and culture. A part of that now is keeping Botox away from these camels.
Yeah, they need to be au naturel, these camels. You know what they say about the camels?
I got hairy legs.
Absolutely. And for $66 million, I would join that competition. What do I got to lose at that point?
Just a bit of Botox.
That's an insane amount of money for like a camel competition. I was thinking maybe $5,000. You get a blue ribbon prize. You get a camel. But for $66 million, holy crap.
They take that shit seriously, Mike, over there.
Yeah. I didn't know. I mean, we have over here in the United States, we have, horse competitions. We show horses. And then down here at the Ohio State Fair, you get the best dog. Hey, come on down here with your best dog. You can win a free Buick or something. But over there in the Middle East, $66 million. Holy moly.
And so this came out this week. I found this story this week. Or someone sent it us, I can't remember. And I put it into, it was a news article.
Yeah.
So I always try and find video or audio if I can to play for everyone. And I put it in the search engine, and there was similar stories coming up from 2017, 2018. This is like a regular scandal.
In Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, the Botox of the camels.
Oh.
But don't they solve these problems in Saudi Arabia just by chopping off hands?
I got hairy guns.
Like, they do some horrific stuff over there when it comes to, punishment. Wow. And so it's like, hey, guy, anybody caught putting Botox in your camel, you're going to lose your hand. And then, boom, it's taken care of.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I wonder if there's any Sharia law around Botox in your camel.
Yeah, my uncle worked in Saudi, in Jeddah. And he was in the town centre when there was sort of public executions and
floggings.
Wasn't he a plastic surgeon, Phil?
No. Maybe he was licensed maybe for Botox injections.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, that's where the big money is.
Yeah, imagine. A bit of filler too as well, But yeah, I was just wondering, what is the fitting punishment for Botox in your camel?
Well, an eye for an eye. Do you have to get Botox then, and your limbs inflated with elastic bands?
Oh, maybe. You're castrated with an elastic band.
Yeah, Hammurabi.
Till they drop off. Castrato.
They do that in the farms around here. You put the,
Yeah.
sure you guys do it out there too. You put the rubber band around the testicles, and next thing you know, you got nutless sheep.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, yeah. What's next?
I got a story for you guys.
Come on, Mike. What have you got?
So this is not an audio clip. I'll just read you guys the headline here. This is, I guess it's kind of COVID related, but in a goofier way. So here's the headline here. Man who broke his back falling on stairs from bed to home office covered by work insurance, courts ruled. So a German federal court recently ruled that a man who broke his back by falling down the stairs from his bedroom on his way to his home office should be covered by his employer's workplace accident insurance. I guess that makes sense. If you're working from home and you get injured in the line of duty, then you're covered by work insurance.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Pretty sure the NHS won't do that for me, to be honest.
I think that probably depends on your employer.
Yeah.
This is in Germany here, so you got to move to Germany to pull this kind of stuff.
Yeah, probably. They've got a lot more money sloshing around there, though, haven't they, than here, allegedly.
Oh, have they? So that is it, all Nazi gold.
You said it. I didn't say that.
Rembrandts. They're still digging out Rembrandts that they stole.
Maybe.
Too soon, Phil.
Too soon. Maybe 70 years. God. Don't mention the war.
So just to wrap up this one right here. So the recent ruling in Germany here has sparked a heated online debate, both in Germany and abroad, while some consider the decision just, seeing as not all work is conducted on company premises. Think postmen, deliverymen, garbage collectors. So workers should be covered by insurance whenever they conduct their work. Others, on the other hand, wonder if this ruling would open the gates to home office inspection by employers to check for potential hazards. I was just thinking maybe that. I don't want people coming over here to check out my home office because I work from home. But it could produce like a lot of scammers. Like you see those Russian, car cameras where people throw themselves in front of cars for insurance claims.
Yeah.
You can have people in Russia throw themselves downstairs.
It's tempting, isn't it?
That's a great point. I mean, yeah, if this becomes a regular occurrence and insurance companies are being forced to pay out, then you're going to have to open your doors and say, let's have a look. Let's see you haven't got like a load of spikes at the bottom of your stairs ready for you to fall on.
They're going to come over and baby-proof everything in your house. They'll put like no sharp corners and all this kind of stuff. Nerf everywhere.
Nerf it, yeah.
Well, it'll be cameras. It'll be those cheap Amazon cameras.
You're right. You're right. If you want to work from home, you agree to have a camera in your house that's recording 24/7.
Oh, do you know?
Exactly. Every room.
I don't want anything to do with Ring doorbells or Alexa or Ask Google or any of that shit. And it's because of this fucking, Jordan B. Peterson Ring camera footage that got leaked today and is blowing up all over the internet.
What's that?
So someone's hacked into Jordan Peterson's Ring camera thing and recorded him trying to persuade his wife Tammy to have anal sex.
I'm going to encroach 2 millimeters. I'm going to encroach right to the point where you start to protest. Then I'm going to stop. Then I'm going to wait. Then you're going to calm down. Then I'm going to encroach again, right to the point where you protest. Then I'm going to stop. Then I'm going to wait. And I'm just going to do that forever. And before you know it, you're going to be back 3 miles from where you started, and you'll have done it one step at a time. And then you'll go, oh, how'd I get here? And the answer was, well, I pushed you a little farther than you should have gone, and you agreed. And so then I pushed you a little farther than you should have gone again, and you agreed.
Did I get you?
Yeah, I
got him. He bought it, hook, line, and sinker.
The guy's good. I'll give him that.
Until he played the clip. It seems cheap even for you, that one, Phil, I'm afraid.
I got hairy guns.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. That was good.
I got time for one more story.
Yeah, go on.
You guys got anything?
I've got some stuff. I don't know. It's a bit dystopian, though. I don't know if I want to do that one.
Okay.
Because, I don't know. Should we do the monkeys?
Let's do the monkeys.
That's crazy one.
Yeah.
Have you seen it? So this isn't a clip. I'll have to read it. Vengeful monkey pack attacks and kills 250 dogs in retaliation for baby monkey's death. It's not funny.
Why are you laughing?
It's horrific. I read that one. Charlie from Macroaggression sent that one to me. And I was like, this is depressing. But man, what a mean monkey.
A monkey pack in India has been filmed attacking stray dogs and scaring the village residents in an attempt to avenge a baby monkey who was killed by a pack of dogs. Over the past month, the villages of Mahalgohan and Lavul in Maharashtra, India, have witnessed increasing violence from local monkeys towards dogs. According to local reports, as many as 250 dogs have been killed by the primates who would drag them to the top of trees and buildings and then throw them to their deaths.
Mental.
I gotta say, are these dogs just pussies? They're not fighting back at all? Or are the monkeys that powerful? Because I know if my dog was approached by a monkey, it would probably try to bite it and maul it. Like if even it's a 50-pound dog, they can be ferocious and take down a grown man. I'm assuming they could do some damage to a monkey too.
Well, I think
a monkey will tear your face off, mate.
That is true. What kind of monkeys are we talking about here? Like those cute ones, like in movies? Or are these like
the mean-looking ones? The mean-looking monkeys.
Yeah. Oh, those are big guys.
But the other thing you've got to remember is if it's a pack of monkeys, and if each one's like 2-3 foot tall, maybe 40 pounds, would you say?
And they're stacked. They're stacked on top of each other and they're racing towards you.
Yeah. But if there's 12 of them, and then the dog can get one, but then the others 10, 11.
It's a numbers game.
Yeah.
It's a bit like that. Would you rather fight, 100 chickens or a chicken the size of a rhinoceros?
Or a chicken the size of 100 chickens.
I'm just surprised the villagers, after the 100th dog being dropped off a roof, they didn't step in to do something.
They have.
They just continually let these dogs being rained down upon their town, and they never stepped in.
The villages, some villages have been injured.
Yeah.
Some villages have fallen.
Well, obviously, these monkeys are a menace, and something needs to be done, and no one's stepping up. Like, I understand the monkeys were sad that their infant was mauled by these dogs. I get it. But they've taken it way too far. This is like crazy. This wasn't eye for an eye. It's like, you fuck with my kid, I'm going to kill all you dogs everywhere.
It's genocide.
It's crazy.
It's a war.
It is.
Can't reason with monkeys.
Evidently
it's
not.
It's difficult to.
Oh.
Like at that point, I've read many stories where there are monkeys that will attack tourists just to take their alcohol. Like, if you want it, just give them alcohol. They'll forget about the dogs and they'll just get drunk and go do their own thing. Yeah. But obviously these villagers didn't do enough to help alleviate the pain and suffering of the monkeys. They caused the situation. They could have stepped in and be some sort of mediator to this problem. And this is sad for the dogs. It really is.
Need Shere Khan, don't they, from the Jungle Book?
Shere Khan.
Yeah, he'll sort it out, wouldn't he? Is he the baddie?
It's a tiger.
Oh, fuck.
Don't get tigers involved, man.
Okay.
Get Baloo and Bagheera.
Baloo, that's it, Bagheera, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
They have to release a different higher predator. They got to put bears in there to take care of their monkey problem now.
Exactly.
Sharks.
Release sharks to take care of the monkey problems, and then you release whales and dolphins to take care of the sharks.
Yeah.
Yeah, this isn't going to escalate.
No.
Well, I think this is show kind of some sort of evolution, or like these are special monkeys. Like, they know how to murder, and they know dropping things from great height is an effective way to take out your enemies. And so I would watch out for kids in that village. Do not piss off those monkeys, because they're going to drop you from a tree.
There was reports that the same pack has been going after toddlers.
I knew it.
Yep. They've been going after little kids as well.
Well, this is the thing. I think it's a well-documented fact that packs of monkeys, packs of apes will go after other sort of troops and attack them and stuff if they're encroaching into their territory. So, they'll fight it and things. So it might be an overpopulation thing as well.
True.
Are they endangered or sacred or something?
The dogs are endangered. There's none of them left.
Yeah, in that village.
Why aren't they like controlling the monkey population?
I think they're deceptively quick. I think you'd have to trap them somehow.
They must be blackmailing the villagers You know, in some way, they might have some information on the villagers, and the villagers are like, I can't do anything. They know everything about me.
I think that's it.
I think you nailed it.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, on that note, we're rocking up on time already.
Yeah.
Shall we sign off
I think
this
we should.
evening?
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been lovely to meet you, Mike.
Oh, I had a blast, guys.
That's great, Mike.
We'll play ourselves out.
Yeah.
Don't forget to check the links in the show notes, listeners, and check out OBDM.
Yeah.
You'll have a great time. Whale of a time. You can even phone in and chat to them.
Sometimes.
Yeah, you don't do it. Do you not do it every show? Depends.
Usually on Saturdays. It depends on how we feel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, Mike. Nice to see you again. Stay on the line for us while we play ourselves out, and we'll catch you a lot on the flip side.
Yeah.
Don't touch that dial.
I love you. I love
chest feeding
you.
Like a Judgment Day and Terminating mode, like.
Right, then we're back.
The dwarf, the cripple, and the mother of madness.
That was our chat with the legendary Mike from OBDM.
Midnight Mike.
Yeah, podcasting since